Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Shine From the Inside's community podcast with me, your host, Jennifer Collington. Today we're going to be talking about probably an area that I could go on forever about, but it's intuition and all the different parts that intuition kind of has underneath it, or has to it. If we were to look at how it builds upwards, to me it really is probably one of the core foundations to a lot of the things for any self-improvement, but especially for your spiritual development. It's incredibly important for us to understand what intuition is, how it works with different parts of us, how it's something that has been engineered for us to largely turn off so that we are not in tune with it, because it makes us easier to control if we're not, and how largely these things can impact us by certain things that we do to stifle our intuition. And then I also talk about how we can develop it, how we can understand what it is, and how we can go into not only working with it, but things beyond just the basic level of intuition. So intuition is something that some of us, could say that we don't have. Some of us can believe that it's something that some people are intuitive and some are not. This is a lie. It's the first lie that you should abolish in thinking about when you're trying to talk to yourself or your spiritual development. We have a siren going off outside with confirmation, right? So for me, that's a confirmation that the universe around me is confirming what I'm saying. It's alarming me and the world that this is kind of happening, and that's something to pay attention to. These are things we're going to get into about what your intuition is talking about, how it speaks to you, and how different things around you can speak to as well, and how you can use that to propel you forward when you are, on the right train, or when maybe you've gotten on the wrong train and need to get off, right? And so intuition to me is pretty important because it's a foundation for a lot of our psychic abilities in general, but it's more about, to me, being that internal compass, our truth detector for what direction we should go in, what's right or wrong for us. It's important to really understand that intuition, unlike a lot of other stuff in our life, is very quiet and calm, and it's something that is always there for us, but it doesn't feel like it needs to really take center stage because it wants you to have free will. And a large part of that is making your own decisions. So it will guide you, but it's not going to continuously pop up and continue to prompt you and have to control you. It's gonna let you go your own route, and then when you feel the need, or when it feels prompted to really show its head again, it will, right? Or you'll talk to it again when you need it again. But intuition to me is like our inner child, all right? So it's a core essence of our true authenticity. It's tapped in. When you're a child, you're tapped into something grander than you before the world kind of drums it out of you, right? And that's why some of us appear to be more intuitively inclined. It's not necessarily because they are, but maybe they were in an environment that allowed their intuition to manifest stronger, to be present stronger, because it's like a muscle. So maybe they got to work it out more. If you're in an environment that never let you think for yourself, that everything was always decided for you, you were very shut down, you were very stifled, it's a lot harder sometimes to even understand what intuition is, because you're so used to other people controlling you and turning that off for you. So it's important to know that it's never that you're not an intuitive person. What I'm going to talk about in this video is for everybody. It is like the blood in our veins. This is just as natural part of us as our ability. Even though some people can't smell or hear or see, it's as natural ability as any of our senses. It's as natural as anything of a skill that we can do outside of ourselves. It is something that we can constantly build up, because this is not just a one level thing. This is about continuously evolving into higher levels of connectivity, all right? Tapping into source and really being able to trust yourself and what you are picking up on. And sometimes that's really difficult. And why I say the inner child is because sometimes we do doubt the children the most, because we think they don't have experience. We think they don't have this. And the more that you kind of like bat a child away, not that we're batting children away, but the more when your intuition that's high, is you shove it off, right? You dismiss it. You say, no, you don't know what you're talking about. No, you don't know. And you minimize it or completely shut it down, right? The more times often that intuitive voice is getting shunned and quieted each time. And like a child, eventually they're not going to come to you. Even though your intuition always comes back around, it does it even further and further and further apart and quieter and quieter and quieter, especially if you're telling it already you're not welcome, right? And that's why with children, if they don't feel in that environment, right, they don't feel that they can be who they are and to speak up freely, you're going to get a lot of children that don't have as great as intuition because they're pretty much being shunned from connecting to something deeper because somebody is blocking that and telling them, no, you're wrong for even thinking that way. And so we put up all these mental barriers, and a lot of the time represents in a lot of physical actions that we take, because these physical actions, you're going to see how they come in and infiltrate us. Even if we are subconscious or unconscious of them, they are impacting us in a way of trying to limit that power, because we've told it you're not welcome and you need to shut off. And that's why a lot of kids go certain ways, right? Is they don't feel as propelled to be able to go certain directions, and so they take whatever methods that they need to and go a path that can help them deal with these frustrations of not being able to maybe go the route that they've been told they could. And that's why a lot of us have these frustrations. A lot of us know a lot more than we think, a lot more than we feel, a lot more than we know, right? And we're tapped into something a lot grander than us, and we feel it, and yet we're told no, that's crazy, that there's something wrong with you, and there's a lot of stigmatism and taboo. It's made it very taboo for you to be very either intuitive or empathetic, or for us to say like people have telepathic conversations, which these are all different levels, right? And so we are taught a lot about how these are bad things, and there's a reason for that. It's a largely part of it is to control us. If you're in tune with your intuition, you're not as easy to control, because you're able to know this is right or wrong, and not just right or wrong for you, because that sixth sense is tapping into something much grander than just you, right? And the sixth sense is where the intuition lies. It's what is that part of what's bringing that in, is that in that sense taps into that intuition, and that intuition is how we're going to understand that information. So if we are not tapped in and we shun that sense, right, it makes it easy for them to control us, because then we're not aware of all these connections around us teaching us, including inside of ourselves, that this is bad, this is wrong, this is not the way, right? And we're much easier to be like, yeah, I'll eat poison, yeah, I'll drink poison, I'll watch poison, I'll be friends with poison, I'll stay in poisonous environments, because that is what has been taught to me. And it's not about me trusting my intuition. It's not about me trusting my body. It's not about me trusting myself and knowing I know better, or feeling like spirit is talking to me to help guide me to know better that these are bad for me. I'm going to listen to whatever's here because this is congruent. This is in the physical. This is something that I can trust very logically, right? So it's a lot easier for me to believe that that's the only thing that I can put my faith in, versus actual faith in myself and realizing, hey, these things not the best for me. I can tell they're not the best for me, and I can tell I feel better when I do this. So how is this wrong for me and this right for me when they're literally the opposites to me, right? All right, so the first thing that we're going to get into is pretty much what intuition is, okay? So the definition of what intuition, and I've linked it with a few different things, because intuition is very easy for us to get misconstrued as certain other areas, okay? So intuition is pretty much that a return to innocence, where you're tapped into, this is my own understanding, where you tapped into all, and an instinct beyond the physical, but it can manifest through the physical. So that's where you get those shivers, the goosebumps, you're kind of feeling in your stomachs, right? It's the voice of our soul, our true essence, and our higher self. It's there for guidance, but it's quiet, it's patient, and it's always willing to let you make your own choices. It's a support in helping align you with what the smoothest way possible. So that's a really key distinction to keep a hold of this whole video, is that it's gonna guide you in the smoothest way possible. So even if it's telling you to do something you don't want to do, it is educating you to take a certain route because it will be your smoothest path. Listen to when it comes up, because when the intuition comes back up, usually a second time about reoccurring problems, it's like, oh, you didn't hear me. So something will get worse to prompt you understanding, right? So that's why when repetitive things come up, there's a reason for that. And there's a lot of the time your intuition is pinging you about what that is. And so anyway, but if we were to look at the proper definitions, some of the ones that I found online is a deep sense of knowing that doesn't rely on logic or outside advice. It's an inner guidance system that can speak through feelings, body cues, and subtle thoughts. It's our ability to make decisions fast without deliberation or conscious reasoning, a subconscious processing, okay? So intuition can be confused with discernment. So when we say you should have discernment, a lot of the time people say that means you need good intuition, which technically they go hand in hand. Your intuition is kind of like a spark. It's what ignites you into being like, yo, there's something happening here. And your discernment's like, let me apply this filter. Let me apply this conscious, right, way of thinking about this in order for me to deduce in order for me to understand if this is right or wrong for me. And based off of what my discernment picks up, I'm going to understand why my intuition kind of maybe hit me with this nudge. And I'm going to make a move then based off of what it's saying, okay? So and then instinct is another thing that people, because technically your intuition is part of your sixth sense, which is part of our instincts, part of those survival things. That's why it's part of our development was to be intuitive, because that helped us. So, oh, today's a good day for hunting. Oh, I should go hunt over here, or I should go gather over here. Or maybe this food is better for me or not, when we were back in the gatherer phases, right? Back in our hunting phases, when it mattered what we did, which it still does. That's partially why we're disconnected from it, is we think none of it matters. Every little detail matters, okay? But we don't want to get caught up in it so much that we can't be present, and, that can lead to spiritual psychosis if you get too involved in the signs, too involved in the connections. You still have to be present and grounded in your body, which one of my favorite things is I do ground this information. So many of the spiritual people that I know, they're like, I can't handle being this human, I have to do this human stuff, and you're missing the point. Like, we are spiritual beings, yes, and that's the thing, is you go to a different side instead of just being completely physical, not just psychological, physical. You think you're just spiritual. And so this experience here in this human body, in this phase, you start to not think of as important, not think that it matters, when the whole point is to integrate them both together. And so you want to be a spiritual being in this physical body's reality and experience this, okay? So what is true is that our instincts definitely are tapped into the sixth sense. However, they differ in ways of why, okay? So a large thing about the difference is the level of consciousness that we're going to have to it, right? Instincts, because they are natural and they're just part of our automatic brain functioning back here at the back of the neck. Literally, a lot of those instincts, they are just there because we am programmed into our amygdala for fear, and what those things are is protection. So we have natural aversions to certain things because we've been programmed by that way, to be that way for our brain. It happens at the base level of brain work, which is like in reptilian brains. They have these still instincts that are for survival. So when we hear a loud noise, we instantly move away or look or jump, And the whole point is that is unconscious. We're not aware, just like breathing. I'm not consciously aware that I need to breathe, even though I am. I'm not consciously doing it all the time, even though I do try to be a lot more conscious of my breaths. The point is that the body naturally knows it needs air to do that. It needs to be doing that. And so there's a lot of programs running behind the scenes unconsciously that we are not aware of, but do know they are happening. With intuition, on the other hand, it is more of a subconscious thing. So intuition is tapping into something that is beyond. It is beyond and outside of us, and we feel it inside of us. And so it is something in a tickling in the background. And when I like to call our intuition our antenna, and because it funnels that information in, and whatever it picks up on, the better your intuition is, the better you can understand what that means. Because then you'll have done the work, which we'll see in a bit, but in order to know how those things relate. All right? And part of being subconscious is that we still aren't fully aware of it. We have to kind of make sense of what it is. And that's why it takes time to understand what you're feeling or what your intuition is hitting on. And discernment is a conscious act. You are consciously choosing to look at that information and to make a choice and to know what is working for you, what isn't. So there's the different levels of them, but they all go hand in hand because technically your instincts is part of your intuition is part of your instincts, and your discernment comes from both of those. In the past, when I touched the stove, it was hot. I have an intuitive hit that if I touch this, I'm going to get burned. And then I use my past history to understand, I probably will get burned. So then I don't touch it, or I do. And I'm like, my intuition was right. I should not have touched that. So discernment is a product of the intuition. This is the wisdom we've gained by allowing us to use it to apply it for logical decision making, being able to tell right from wrong, seeing beyond the surface, the patterns, or understanding motivations. This is a conscious effort, usually applied for a conscious choice. Instinct is what a part of our intuition is. However, most senses, our instincts, are based on the physical. They are usually unconscious and automatic survival responses, like our instinct to breathe or naturally be started by loud noises. They come from the conscious just to respond to a need of doing them. So intuition alerts us, instinct motivates us or demotivates us to or away from an alert, and discernment analyzes that alert. They work together for survival, but also for us to thrive, okay? And accurately being able to use any or combining the powers of all three greatly benefit us. Some in different ways, like discernment helps us to look at the long-term kind of choices to discover what's most ideal. Intuition and instinct can help us in an instant to make split-second decisions that we don't have time to think over. Intuition and instinct are good for safety and emotional alignment. Discernment, evaluation of opportunities or relationships, of different truths or beliefs. All are important to get in touch with and understand for a strong intuition. And the more awareness we have in our body, emotions, and thoughts, the more clearly and more strongly our intuition can come through. Okay, so quick list about breaking them down. Instinct equals unconscious, okay? Quick acts before thought, innate, automatic, survival response. We're genetic and we're born with that, all right? Intuition, subconscious. It's our inner emotional compass and inner knowing. Automatic, quiet, brings awareness, internal nudging to action, physical sensations, gut feelings. And it's that sixth sense, like feeling you're tapping into something, an energy kind of that's beyond this physical. Discernment is consciousness, okay? I just had a body confirmation, which is part of the signs we're going to see. How you know you're speaking your truth. A lot of the times you're going to get burps, And sometimes coughing if it's a really big kind of truth coming out, okay? So discernment, consciousness, choice to think, and it's the filter or map of your wisdom. It's applied to gut feelings. It's a process-orientated, experience-based, it's cultivated, and it uses your logic, okay? So as we can see, you understand now maybe why intuition kind of matters. It's what gives most of our power to sense beyond the physical, and it's intelligent enough that it works in harmony with the rest of us to illuminate the messages we are needing heard now. So we know we need to hear it on some level beyond us, and our intuition funnels it down to help us to hear it so that we can move forward. The whole point that I want to make here is that your intuition always wants you to move forward. Okay? So it's always going to tell you how to do that. It's your soul's guidance. It's the ability to perceive the true essence of your spirit. So whatever is truly in alignment for you, it is always going to tell you that, right? And sometimes it's important to know that it'll know something that does not make sense, because it knows everything, right? And it knows everything beyond us. It's just that the more that we are not tapped into our intuition, the more we realize we're not tapped into everything, right? The more you tap into your intuition, the more you realize just how much you are connected to everything, which is why then you can access information about a great deal more of things. important point there. So it knows that about everything without reason or experience. Your intuition, before you even enter a trail, like I go hiking a lot, it'll know which maybe route might be better for you to go to. And sometimes it's not better because you're not going to get lost. Sometimes it's better because there's something you need to see there, right? And also it's important, sometimes there is an energetic grid around the planet. Sometimes you are guided in a specific spot by mishap or not, even if you have to turn around, because that spot specifically, when you get there, you either activate something in you or you activate something in the planet, right? Because there's energy there. And so your body, when you get to these different places, it triggers something in your body for this DNA activations or these program activations. So when we go the wrong way, it's never really the wrong way. When we go somewhere and it wasn't where we were meant to be, that doesn't mean we didn't need to be there, right? It's really important to trust that even though sometimes it doesn't align with your end goal, it still was a part of helping you. And that's where we have to really trust the bigger picture. And that's where intuition gets to, is because it does know everything beyond even this first step. It knows our last steps, right? It knows where everything's going. And there's multiple dimensions going on at all times, right? So it knows not just about this dimension, it means it knows about all the others, which means it knows all the different routes of choices you could possibly take. And it's always trying to guide you to the smoothest one, to your highest self, your highest timeline, which is why intuition is so incredibly powerful, because it is such a tool to help us really align with the true essence of us and what we ultimately are here for, right? And so because of this, it's very easy for people to dismiss. As a soul and spirit communicate through more than just words. So without that logical, tangible, physical proof, a lot of people just, like, I've known a lot of people that are like, show me proof of what you're saying. I can't prove energies to you in that way. You have to open yourself up to be able to feel them. And some people, they're like, well, I've tried. I'm like, have you though? Because it's weird that you would say you absolutely can't find any of this if you've actually taken time to try. So it's very important to understand that because you're dismissing something, you're still telling yourself it doesn't exist. You're still technically gaslighting yourself to be like, no. And without you tangibly proving yourself to me right now, I won't ever believe you. And your intuition is like, I work with patience and I don't have to prove myself. You will see what I mean in time. Right? And then it'll sit back. But sometimes intuitions aren't really fast. But sometimes, yeah. Like some things I do that it's told me I won't see for months or years. That's why it's important to listen to them at the time. Because later on you'll be like, oh my God, that's why I had to do that. You know? So sometimes these insights or inspirations are invitations for us to do more with if we should accept them. And they become the brainstorm before the plan, all right? Which means they aren't always clear and they can take time to see or understand them. A lot of what I have done in my life, I have not known why I have done it until way later. I moved to the island not knowing why I would come here, right? I took psychology, not knowing why I took psychology. I did life coaching, not knowing why I did life coaching. You know, I got into energy work, not because I knew why I was getting into energy work. I started researching a lot of different things and not knowing why I did. Just knowing I felt called to them. And now they've all come together in this neat little packaging, you know, that if I had needed to know why they were coming together, I would have never started building the ingredients, right? But somehow now those ingredients all make this perfect result. And sometimes we need to understand that a lot of our intuition is speaking to us in things that we are not necessarily going to understand right at that time, and sometimes we will. But it's just to be like, I have to trust this. Like, it's telling me that for a reason, okay? So, and knowing this means we have to understand the biggest factor then to working with our intuition is trust. Trusting we know and sense something before there is any tangible evidence. Trusting what's coming even if everything is contrary to our insights. Trusting in self to hear and understand and move with divine alignment by knowing we can trust whatever it is that comes up. Trust and faith in knowing what your body and spirit is telling you and can be one of the... trust and faith in knowing what your body and spirit is telling you can be one of the biggest assets we can have in life when our reality or our society or our environment or our community is all sometimes kind of pointing out us all in the wrong direction. Sound right? For us as individuals, but also for us overall as humans. If we cannot hear from ourselves what's right or wrong for us, then it's easy to go along with whatever is being told, and oftentimes it's not for the betterment, but for another's. Especially if we can tell if it doesn't align and force ourselves into it anyways, which is all too easy to do now. And we see the way our body and minds and emotions and life itself push back when it doesn't align with how other solutions theirs only seem to make it worse, right? Partly we're seeing that in society right now, how they have lied to us. They have mistreated us for a reason, like even not telling us and teaching us about intuition. They have done this on purpose, right? To keep us from knowing this entirety of who we are. We've put our trust in them to reveal what we need to be healthy and whole individuals, and how to take care of ourselves and how to take care of this environment. And now we learn that they don't care about most of that stuff. It's whatever they can do to make a buck, right? And that is very sick. And part of us have known there's been something very wrong with this because of how our bodies, our minds, and lives are reacting to it. It's not good, no matter what we do, right? And it's still there. It still feels that way. And then you see all the poisons and stuff in everything, right? So this is partially why we haven't been taught about intuition, its importance, and how to grow it or protect it from harm as a form of control and suppression, and why it's so crucial now is even in any of my prior videos. We talk about authenticity and knowing ourselves. Intuition at its core is true knowledge about all, and that especially means us. It's our own personal lie detector system. And in a world full of lies and corruption, it's no wonder they made it a mission to sever us from it and the way of life it provides us with. Because truly, when you're tapped into intuition, you're living your authentic life, you feel real good, even when life is challenging. Because it's all going to work out for you. But you're also only worrying about stuff that matters to you. So you don't feel bombarded by all this extra stuff, this external noise that they try to funnel into us or force into us, right? And so it's really important to build this intuition, because it becomes one of the foundational blocks to our spiritual development, true spiritual development too, in the one that actually changes you and transforms you and helps you to live closer to that one source or Christ consciousness or God itself, right? It's a call to wake up and become aware of the conscious in the now. The more we can practice with it and get to know and understand it, the stronger and better it can get at working with us. The further out our predictions might be, across different places, you'll see in one of the breakdowns of different levels that we're at, sometimes you can only predict little itty bitty things, and they're only little glitches and little hinges that you sometimes get right. The more you build your intuition, it's almost like everything is a hit. Boop, 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 because you're living in alignment. So your intuition is constantly able to talk to you about all these things on all different levels, because again, it's tapped into everything, right? So the more it gets stronger, the more it becomes second nature to us. Some start out with a higher level already, as I was saying. Usually that means the environment allowed that, and some of us feel we're lacking, and it was severed a very long time ago on purpose, right? So if we were to look at different stages of the intuition, that's what I was talking about earlier, that's what we're going to get into now. So you break that up into really 3 different stages, okay? There's the first stage, the middle stage, and then the highest realms of it. Crude intuition is what they call the first one, and that one is like your lowest level. That's where we're talking about you kind of get hunches every once in a while. And more often you'll probably be like, that was weird, or I feel like I'm imagining things, like you get maybe quick shivers or something kind of aligns, like you're picking up that people are talking about maybe stuff that you were just thinking about, or you were thinking about a friend and they called you, but it doesn't happen all the time, only once in a while. And so it's an occasional hunch. Largely you don't feel intuitive. Like these are the people that are probably like, I'm not really all that intuitive, right? Or you can get some people who are like, yeah, I'm incredibly intuitive, and they've not done any of this work, right? So they're still at this stage as well. They still only get some hits and lots of misses, because they technically haven't done the full work to gather all the information. But so at this stage, you usually lack an understanding or clarity of your signs, your messages, your fields of intuition that communicates with. So this stage requires the most work because you have to, this is the level we're starting with in this video pretty much, is like, if you're at this level, how do you get to the highest level, right? How do you move on? And this is where it starts, is you really have to build your common sense of your body emotions. So the emotions, your body, the way that it feels, the way that it communicates with you, very important. Because what is outside of us, right, has to funnel into us and communicate with us somewhere in here. And sometimes you'll get it right away. You'll understand what it's saying. But sometimes there's some other part of you that can deliver that message more easily than you just knowing it, right? And sometimes it's difficult, right? But the point is that the more that you understand what your emotions are telling you and get into that, and sensations, but also signs, and then connect them to these understandings for the future awareness, the better your intuition's going to do. Because then in the future, instead of having to do all this work, you can easily be like, oh, this is what it's saying. This is what it's saying. This is what it's saying. Versus like, what is that? What am I feeling? What's going on here, right? So some of the things you can do is daily introspection. So really taking time to check in with yourself, because if you give yourself a chance to actually share how you're doing every day, especially if you don't check on yourself ever, right? It gives yourself this time for this information to come forward. And that might not always be your intuitive voice, but it's definitely going to be a part of you that needed acknowledged. And the more that those emotions get to be acknowledged, the more mental space you're clearing out for your intuition to come through so it can talk to you in other ways, okay? And so using calmness, your intuition wants to take its time. Your intuition wants to be pretty chillaxed, okay? And so the more calm that you operate your day in, the more you're also giving that mental space, because the emotions are not heightened in a crazy way, right? It doesn't have to battle them. It can just work with you calmly. And so meditation is a really good aid, any kind of meditation, but is again just setting aside that space to give yourself that mental clarity to allow something else to come forward. And so the next level is going to be semi-intuition. So this is your mid-level. So this is about where most people probably naturally are at, unless they've been really stifled. And by that, I mean, if you've been taught not to listen to your body and you've been told you're going to be at the lower level, right? So there's nothing wrong with that. I would say that I started at the lower level because for a long time growing up, I was number to my emotions. I did turn them off. I was very intuitive as a child, and I was told I was wrong all the time. And there was something wrong with me. And now I think you speak truths that people are uncomfortable with. And they're like, how do they know that? And like, why are I? So they shut you up because they just like don't even want to face that, right? And I understand. Now as an adult, I get it. Sometimes even now when I speak some truths, I'm like, whoops, that was a bit honest. This is a bit much, a bit too tapped into some other information I maybe don't need to share. It wasn't really needed to deliver that message, you know? Not that it's ever cruel, because I don't do that. But the point is that this mid-level is where most people are going to be at, where you do have more understanding sometimes of like when things are communicating to you, how your body maybe talks to you. This is more of an understanding of the signs, not just for your bodies and your guides, especially your hunches. You might have developed reasoning and feeling. Use tools or methods to remain more clear-headed. So know when you maybe need to take space. So going journaling, taking time in nature, taking meditation time. Like, these are people who are kind of more aware and do kind of listen to their body. They're not actively trying to be intuitive, but they are more aware. They're just more present with themselves. And more people are coming to this stage of this, but it's okay if you're not. Again, a lot of us unintentionally have not been put up to higher levels because they do not want us to. So it's okay if most people coming across this video, you're more at the first level, because that's mostly who needs to really listen to this, right? It's not the people at the highest level. They don't care. Because when you get to the highest level, you actually don't need any outside information. You're kind of over it. Right? And that's because you know that you already can tap in and know things. Even though you're open to others, it's still more about the trust, right? Trusting in yourself. And when you're at the bottom level, a lot of the time, you might not trust in anything. And so you might overly go to other people. You might overly need advice or confirmations. You might overly be invested in trying to prove things. When you get to the higher level, you got nothing. That's why when people were like, you need to prove stuff to me, I'm like, I actually don't. I don't even need to talk to you about this. If you haven't put that together yourself, it is not on me to put that antenna in your head up. That means there's something blocking it, and that is on you, right? But at the same time, I do recognize by me like not sharing the information, not helping people, it keeps people at that level, right? So that's why we're here sharing these things, because overall I want humanity itself to expand. I want us to evolve. There's no reason we shouldn't be. This is information we should be taught in schools. This is all things we should know, right? As a basic how to know you and how to operate this body and mentality that you have, okay? So this one, again, in a semi-intuition, you're being pulled towards or away in a quiet sense. Like you can feel when things are for or not for you, and you start to develop a sense of not needing to explain. This is when you start being okay with people not liking you or liking you. No more over-explaining, but you kind of still might in some instances. But this is also where you start being able to be intuitive across a few areas. So instead of just feeling like you only are really, like some people in the crude intuition, you might be like really good at guessing like certain numbers or certain animals or predicting certain things, like, you know, or getting a really good feel about people, right? But when you move into semi-intuition, you can apply your intuition to maybe a few topics at a time. So now you're good at numbers and cars, at betting numbers, at, you know, picking certain trails, or about great timing to leave your house, like things. You can just, lots of different little areas, right? In the last stage, which is called conscious developed intuition, this is your higher levels, which they continue to rise up. So at this stage, you're not just like reaching a top line and then you're done. When you get into this, you start realizing how much it goes up. And by that, I mean the different levels to consciousness, because there's 12, right? And 12th level is Christ consciousness. So even you just learning this is about actually being more, not just in the 3D, but this is also tapping into the 5D. So we're not even up at those levels yet, right? But being consciously developed intuition, you are closer to your 5D than you would be if you were in the crude intuition. I keep calling it initiation because I think that's related, like you're initiating yourself into it, all right? So when you're initiating something, you have to be okay with being a learner in it. By confirmation, it's okay for it to be an initiation, for you opening up to something and it being a whole new way of life, right? Once you get to the conscious developed intuition, it is just a way of life that you are intuitive. It is just second nature. You live and breathe it. You are tapped into everything and nothing at the same time. And by nothing, I mean at any time now you realize that you are a director of what's happening. So your intuition allows you to choose how you're navigating. So it doesn't really matter what's going on. You choose to thrive in it all and understand the lesson or sign or meaning, and choose to make the most of that experience with whatever it is. So this is a conscious intuitive hits. You are able to apply it to everything. So you're like, okay, what does my intuition say about this? Boom, my intuition tells me this. And you just have to think about it for a minute and let it, and you see how it feels in your body. And then based off of how that feeling is, you know, right? So this is a wide understanding of different ways we can feel or receive messages. We're open to receive and act with no thinking. So this is like, I don't even need to question myself anymore. I just trust and move. And so the tools and methods for this is more about, again, more peaceful ways of life. So being more authentic with yourself and doing the things that you truly enjoy. But intuition, just listening to it, because when you get into this role, life is a lot smoother. You do have a more pleasantful life. You know why? Because of what I said in the beginning. Intuition is always trying to make your life as smooth as possible. If you listen to it, even when hang-ups happen, they're still the best possible outcome. You know, because instead of these other 10 horrible things happening, this is what happened. Out of all those options, this is what happened, right? And your intuition usually is like, yeah, now if you want this to happen instead of all of those, this might be the best one, right? And so if you start listening to that, you do just move forward, and it does become a non-negotiable. You cannot really, there is an inability to move forward with anything that isn't aligned. And it's not that you can't choose something that's not aligned. There's just this such unease in you that it just doesn't sit right in you. Okay. And so at this point, you move forward only with what feels aligned. And you don't need to explain why it doesn't. It just needs to matter to you. And there's nothing rude in that. A lot of people want to shame us for being like, oh, you don't have all these reasons to not talk to this person or what. I feel like I shouldn't. And I don't have to explain that, because I know when this happens for me, it's a no zone, right? So outside noise, fear-based logics, they all disappear. You're not really worried about all that outside stuff, like especially proving yourself to others. You're just more about being embodied in what you know and what you are picking up around you, okay? And so with these, there being levels to it, the point is to not think of perfectionism, all right? Or being perfect, or to get the best, or be the best, most intuitive, or anything like that. This is a journey. This is a process, and it isn't perfect. And the more you use it, the more you can grow into deeper harmony with the self, the spirit, and the universe. But the point is to recognize, if you're trying to do this to attain the top level, you're never going to get there, because there is no top level. Even when you get to 12th consciousness, you can go above it. There are levels above that. And we can't even maintain right now Christ consciousness 24/7, because it's so intense on our field in this physical realm, because it is completely spirit, right? So the point is to understand, we're always just trying to evolve a bit more. It is never to be some ideal, like crazy expectation on yourself, okay? So, but anyways, moving along. So if we were to look at how to start listening to our intuition, okay, there are 3 main steps that we can do so, and I'm going to elaborate on them, but the first, I'll just say them quickly. So to learn to listen to yourself, make sure all parts are on board, and then 3, act, which is the sooner the better, okay? So first one, learn to listen to yourself. Like, as we've been talking about, kind of need to understand what's happening with you in order to get what your intuition is saying, okay? So listening to yourself at the start helps you to also understand what your intuition sounds like versus other things, okay? Usually it isn't a loud booming voice or a frantic voice. It's calm, collected, it's quiet, it's innocent, right? Like the child. Sometimes it's not a child. See, mine's not a child when I think of her, because she's my higher self. So she is grown. But in the way of I thinking about how receptive and open to be to her, I always think of her like a child coming to me, somebody that I would not want to shun or stifle out just because I don't understand what they're saying. I want to actually take time to understand, right? And then I recognize the wisdom that they actually are coming to me in, which is this grand, old, wiser person that, but also still a very young person. To me, the smartest people are the ones that keep that innocence of their heart forever. So anyways, once you know what it sounds like, it means easier to know when something else is talking to you, which is like intuition versus ego, aka more love versus fear, okay? Authenticity versus fear, anything like that. Part of listening to the self is also they're having the courage to do so. So sometimes it's really easy to kind of drown out ourselves and not to pay attention to what it's saying to us. And like, I get why. I ignored my intuition for a while, okay? And anytime I did, it hurt me more. And so one of my favorite quotes is like, one thing I realized in getting on the wrong train was that the sooner I get off of it, the cheaper it was to get back to where I needed to go. And that's very true. When my intuition hits, the longer I let myself deny it, the more further damage I'm either doing to my body or to my life. Because a lot of when I'm not aligned or when I'm denying a message, I get eczema. So I'll get flare-ups. So on my body, you will see it. And the longer it goes on, the worse it'll get, because, you're not hearing me. So let's get worse. Right? And sometimes, you didn't hear me in this area. So now I'll get worse in this area on top of that area. And right. And so it's going to compound. It grows like a snowball. So the quicker you listen to this intuition, pinpoint what it's saying, and make an action on it, the healthier and better and smoother everything will be. Because part of why it's coming up is it doesn't want you to have to deal with these things. It wants you to be able to move on so you don't have to. And then if you don't, it thinks you're not hearing it. And if you can't hear the intuition and you can't listen to the body, then it doesn't know what else to do. And so it starts putting it out into your world, your externals, right? So anyways, part of listening is having that courage to do so. It's easy to drown out your intuition, to know what it has to say. As sometimes it's pointing us in a direction we need to go, and the intuition likes growth and evolution, so it's changing, expanding with us, but it takes courage to face the truth or reality of which comes up at the next point. As sometimes that is scary, right? Me getting on here to do these things was scary, and I had to listen to my intuition and understand what it was really saying and why that was scary. And then in order to understand, I had to acknowledge what was going on, and then I could reassure myself about it. But until I talked about it and pinpointed those things, I wasn't able to move forward, right? And so the next part is also having patience, because if you learn to listen to yourself, we've been very harsh and shut it down sometimes really badly. And so it has learned not to speak up when we've wanted it or needed it in the past because we don't listen to it. And so it takes time for it to come out, for it to emerge. It takes time for it to share its insights with you. And sometimes that is important to know the distinction, because fear sometimes is very quick and very loud to talk to you. So fear, in times of doubt especially, it wants to yell at you, and intuition is going to let itself take its time. So it'll let ego or fear speak, and then it'll be like, all of a sudden you'll hear this quiet little thing, or maybe it's like, maybe you need to do this, And so important to know that intuition tends to be calm and supportive, and it brings relief even if it's a message we don't want to hear. The more patient a message, or the more patience we are, the more willing it will be to emerge, especially if we've shut it down over a lot of years. It's learned to not speak up, and so we are giving it space, and it's okay if it's still shy, right? Like, we're going to all be shy if we've been rejected a lot. So it's okay for it to take that time, because the more that you ask it and give it space, and the more you're open and you don't interrupt or intrude on what it's saying to you or dismiss it when it comes out, and the faster you act and trust it, the more it's going to be like, oh, okay, you do have faith in me. I can speak up to you. I can trust you to relay my messages a lot quicker now, and I'll do that, right? And so there's no point in it talking to us if we're not going to listen. And so one of the things we need to start doing is just listening to ourselves, all right? And that's why those daily check-ins is one of the first place we start. Is that first kind of dedication and commitment to yourself, to hearing, what do I have to say today? How do I feel today? What's going on for me today? Right? So, second one, make sure all parts are on board. This is about listening to your intuition, seeing how the insight resonates inside of us, and how we take the intuition down into our body and sense how it moves in us. Sometimes all of us feels okay. Those are immediate yeses. Like, you can feel it. Like, your body expands and it's excited, it opens up to it, and it immediately wants it. And then there's parts of us that hold back, and you'll feel like that constriction or that heaviness or that hurt, or sometimes tension. Tension is a really good indicator, but and this is normally there's a variety of reasons we can hold back, but it's usually often out of fear. And that's from an outdated belief or past that no longer aligns with these old parts. And so this is a time for empathy. These parts care about you. Never think fear is not coming up for a reason. Even though fear is irrelevant in some way, it is an indicator to help you point to something that you need to say goodbye to. Or to listen to. And that's why we take ownership of it, right? Should I listen to this intuitive hit? Is it going to hurt me in this way? Okay, no, it's not. Then maybe I can move forward with it. Is it going to hurt me in this way? Potentially. But also, is that okay? Is that a hurt that I can deal with? Is it worth it? And sometimes it usually is. Like, when your intuition is being like, you have to break up with this partner and you don't want to. Well, I know you don't want to, but in the long run, this is what is better for you, right? And there's parts of you who are scared, so you have to address what you're scared about. Sometimes it's about being alone. Sometimes it's about starting over. Sometimes it's about abandonment or not being able to make something work and having to quit on something after you put so much effort into it, right? And so whatever it is, it's important to, for one, know that that's okay for it to come up, but it doesn't align. If this relationship doesn't work, no matter how long you stay there, you're not changing that, right? You're only putting yourself through more. So we have to encourage our body to be like, I understand you're scared of these things, but I trust that we can go through them. That's why we're being guided to move on, and that there's something better out there for us. And that's why we're going to go towards that. So if you do that, it's in time to really know that these things, they deserve empathy, because they literally are concerns for your safety or well-being usually. And they do have good merit to be, right? And in order to move on and move forward, we have to embrace them, and we have to see if the threat is truly real or not. And if it's outdated, then we need to listen and acknowledge regardless. And then things can come up that are right or wrong. They're just simply what we have to feel. And that's why feeling and being open to what's going on for you is really incredibly important, because if you don't, it's really hard for you to make sense of the next steps for it, right? And so once we can honor ourselves in feeling all of this, we can move forward by honoring ourselves to listen to all of us, and then everything, it knows it's important and it's acknowledged. And so it's going to feel safe to move on then, because it knows that you've taken this into consideration and know it's still best to move forward. And so that's going to bolster trust to listen to yourself in the future if something important shows up again. Is you're going to know that you're going to hear yourself if it is dangerous or not. And you're going to talk to yourself about it if they need to. And you're going to reassure yourself about the direction it's going to go, okay? And then, so the last one is to act. So again, faster the better usually with intuition. Once you get a ping, like that is a time. After you've done this deducing, like figuring out what it means and how it relates in your body, because things resonate in our body. You'll feel things kind of hit your pit of your stomach or hit your chest, hit your throat. They could hit anywhere on your body. It represents for different places for people. For me, when it is more soul aligned, it hits my heart. My stomach can do either. But my throat, usually, if it like tenses up and like gets really not feeling well, constriction inside anywhere of me, it's a no usually, right? So when you just understand how it resonates with you, how that information lands, it's really easy to act after that. So once your intuition arises, the biggest thing we can do is know how it lands in us, get out of the way of it, and let yourself move in accordance with what it's telling us, okay? And once we notice the intuition, address the objections, and then our action is now clear, okay? So it's important to note, if you've done all of this, okay, if you're at this stage, you've done the deducing, and you're ready to act, and then you do, and then it still feels scary, even then when you're acting or after it, that's common, okay? That's the first thing you should know. It's common for you to still feel that way, especially when you're making big moves that are scary. It'd be weird if you weren't a little scared. Right? But the second thing is your intuition isn't loud. Okay? So anything speaking like that, anything still screaming at you, it's scared. Anything still screaming at you about all these like doubts or worries you would have, that's fear. Okay? And so it's better to remind yourself in these moments that fear is loud. All right? But loud doesn't mean that it's true. All right? And I have here that I choose a dedication to myself and to now act on deeper knowing now, despite any fear that arises. And so it is. So it's important to tell yourself, and after these moments, that even though the fear is there, you're still choosing to move beyond it because you trust in what you know. Like me doing this kind of thing, I know that it's scary, regardless if I do it or not. It's still scary. The point is that I know I'm acting in deeper accordance with my soul, and that's the only thing that really matters. Whatever comes up, I'll be able to handle it, because I was meant to. If nothing comes up, then nothing comes up. And that was about proving to myself that I could do it, and nothing happened then, right? But even if something does happen, it was about proving to myself I could handle it regardless. And so the intuition is knowing I just need to act on this regardless of what the outcome is going to be. And also know that lots of fears come from the and then what and how or what will this work out. So if you're overly questioning yourself and overly trying to figure it out and trying to plan multiple steps, the fear, the ego, it all wants everything to be familiar. And so it wants to do what's known, but intuition doesn't need all of that. And intuition doesn't require all of that. So it literally, intuition is going to be about a step at a time, about being present in the moment, about doing the most to that experience. And so it's going to be one step at a time, and then trying to remind you not to get ahead of yourself, because at any moment, the next step could completely pivot because the outcome might not be what you think, right? And so you might be going in a completely different direction. So if you're too locked on to these next steps, they might not even be the steps you need to take, right? And so it's going to be important to keep it simple and to focus on just the one step at a time and to do them the best to your ability when they call out to you, right? And that's what Bashir talks about. It's about finding out whatever calls to you and then doing it to the best of your ability. And that's going to put you in the most authentic place. It's also going to elevate you the highest, right? So what happens if we're not following our intuition? How is it a good way to quickly understand if we are not and to know like the difference, okay? So if you're following it, it's a yes or a no usually, right? And sometimes it's very brief what it tells you. It's going to be a closed-ended thing afterwards, though, usually. So it's a magnetic sense you're being guided towards. There usually is a release after you hear what intuition has to say. It can be represented or followed by a hum or a buzzing, goosebumps, a feeling of flow. There might be a detachment. So something that you were really like, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, fine, whatever. Warnings even give us peace. And so all aligns effortlessly with our decisions. We're grounded. We have inner peace. There's relaxation. You get a ringing in your ears, or there's a quiet confidence just to you all of a sudden, okay? If you're ignoring your intuition, it's going to have a lot more what ifs. The fear and stuff has a lot more open-ended loops to it. So it's going to have a lot of story time, right? And so what you'll feel if you're not following your intuition after a choice, you're going to usually feel unfulfilled. This can lead to like feelings of burnout or stagnation, resentments for not doing what you know you should. Because even when you're ignoring it, all of a sudden you have that intuitive hindsight that comes back like, I was warned about this and I continued on. That's another realizing you ignored yourself, right? And sometimes you can build up a lot of resentment by being like, oh, I can't believe I keep it, like, not listening to myself. I know better than this, right? So, but friction is a great noticing trait. Your body uses friction to display a lot of the time when we're not using intuition, which is why we feel immediately that constriction. Another feeling is feeling sticky. Brain fog can happen too. Dull, heavy pit in our stomach. An energy leak. So there's also exhaustion that we can have. Chronic anxiety, persistent indecision. We can have lots of regret, disconnect from the self, like on purpose. And then there's headaches. You can have lots of tight chest or rapid breathing. Constant nagging voice. General sense of feeling off. Uneasiness. Constant repeating of mistakes. Replacing intuition with logic to suppress your desires, okay? So a lot can happen. A lot can happen for when you're not following your intuition. It's important to understand really the difference in why you'll get these different reactions, okay? And so looking at it bigger, we see that there's really two ways to separate this. And it's when you're following your intuition or when you're letting anxiety control you. And that's your fear base, right? And so when we're looking at that, right, when you use intuition, it's centered and it's resolved. Anxiety is those long circular loops of what ifs or past regrets. And then intuition is grounded, low sensation either in the belly or clear opening in the chest. Anxiety is where you feel that tightness in your throat, your jaw, or your top of your chest, so right here, which is often why panic attacks attack, like right in this area, right? And so anxiety is only going to present dead ends and reasons to fear it, okay? When intuition comes in, it's presenting a path forward. Even if it's one you don't want to take, it is very like, all of a sudden like, oh, yeah, that would be a good path, I guess, to take. So it's a soft, clear feeling in a calm way. When anxiety presents, it's urgent, anxious feeling. It can be hot and frantic, but the heat is in like a sickly kind of way. It can also lead to you being paralyzed or obsessed. So paralyzed, almost like so much that you're cold that you've been turned off or numb. Also, an inability to move forward. So like me with this for a long time, it was just like I was paralyzed by it because I just could not face what I needed to for a while, right? And then, but yet I was obsessed still with needing to do it and accruing knowledge and how to be better at it. And so, anyways, anxiety convinces us with stories and justifications, okay? So intuition is more of a soft, clear feeling in a calm way. It can be cool or warming. So sometimes you'll get like this sudden shiver, sometimes a cold wave over you. But also you can warm up in a whole heated way, and that could be the spirit of conviction. And usually it just feels like very warm, like it's a pleasant feeling, but just like, wow, I'm really hot. But not like, oh my God, I'm so burning up. Like I'm sick. I feel like awful, you know? There's a difference there. And so intuition usually feels powerful or empowering and peaceful, but also very powerful. Like you feel powerful after you connect with it. It has neutral emotion and it's consistent over time. The difference with anxiety is it brings muscle tension, butterflies and knots in the stomach, drained, shaky, agitated, and it shifts. So it's not consistent like intuition. It shifts or changes based on stress and external triggers. So anxiety is always going to be constantly pulling you in different directions based on if you're stressed or not or something triggered you. Intuition, no matter how I felt about this, it was always there, right? And sometimes I'd be even worse at it when I'm highly anxious versus when I was confident. But the one thing that remained is the intuition is like, regardless of how you feel, it's still something you got to do, right? So the key point that you want to take away from this and why I shared it is so that you can see the difference, right? You want to know when your intuition is talking to you versus anxiety, because we have been largely programmed to let anxiety and fear and ego be the driving factors for what influences our motivations. And the problem with that is they like to be stable and congruent. They like to not change. They like to be systems. Intuition more wants to be an organism. It wants to grow, expand, evolve. It wants to work with you. It wants to be in harmony. And it's okay with that, meaning that everything needs to change and be unfamiliar. And so they're very different. So the key is the more calmly something is guiding you, the more peaceful something is pushing you in a certain direction, the more likely it's your intuition. Okay? As your higher self, your intuition is always saying if it hurts, then as hard as it is, it's time to turn towards it, to see it, to be present with it, and give it to your love. Compassion and knowing all of it is a part of yourself as a whole. Okay? Unlike the ego or your fear, who's always saying if it hurts, if it scares me, if it challenges me, if it's unfamiliar to me, then cover it up, run from it, or numb it with addictions and avoid it at all costs. There is a very big difference. They constantly do push. They not go hand in hand always. A lot of the time, they're always going to be saying something different. And that's okay. They don't have to be saying the same thing. But in order for you to listen to your intuition, you have to know when the anxiety is trying to prompt you, because it likes to sometimes act like, oh, I'm being intuitive. This is scary. It's going to be bad for you. Don't go to that. Don't go to that. And then you check in with yourself and your intuition's like, yeah, it's scary, but it's also important to me. And it might not work out, but I still need to do it. Right? And so your intuition wants you to be authentic and true to you. However, or whatever that will look like, and in doing so, to be so. But this intuition is then our inner knowing for us to tell us what's true or aligned with us or what's not. It's there to help us embrace the fullness of life, guiding us to lessons needed and joy we truly desire. Our soul's voice. And so it's making it go beyond just a skill. It's also a vision, one that's able to hold a much larger comprehension of the truth and works in tandem with the rest, as a healthy mind, body, and emotions require the healthy states to advance to upper levels of the past. So if anybody knows what Robert's Maslow's hierarchy of needs is, it's like a triangle like this. And at the bottom, you have something that's like safety, home, food, those kinds of things. That's your base of your pyramid. If you're constantly fighting that base of the pyramid, it's really hard to get up to the top levels, because it goes up to progressing out of the lower, like just physical needs, and it goes up to more of like a spiritual level, and that's like consciousness and stuff. It's hard to focus on being more spiritually open if you're worrying if you're gonna starve for food tonight, or if you have nowhere to sleep. So part of why they've kept some of us in lower positions in life, in striving constantly to survive, is because they never wanted us to move up this pyramid, right? They always wanted to keep us at the base level, because when we get to the top level, we are largely uncontrollable by a lot of their metrics and standards that they have, because then we are tapped into something that is beyond what they are controlling. They cannot control the spiritual plane. They can only control us not using it. They can only control us feeling like we can't tap into it. But they cannot control us once we're in that, and that's why they never wanted us to do that, right? So it's important for us to see that if we keep struggling, the more that we keep in that level, we can never reach the levels of thriving, because survival is always going to be our main focus. And the intuition wants us to move beyond that, right? And so until we're satisfied at those lower levels, we cannot approach higher levels. And it's why I want to do these series, is because part of some of that struggle is spiritual, that we are not seeing how we're making it harder or worse on ourselves because we're giving into these ways that disempower us. And so by you taking part of this, it helps you start fighting back in a way that now you don't have to think of everything as survival. You don't have to think of everything in these metrics that they've been giving you that are largely unhealthy, right? But the key point here is to know that we all have this intuitive sense, which I think of as our hub center. So the intuition is our antenna, but it's a hub center that festers into a bunch of other kind of areas, but it's the hub center of our sixth sense. So the intuition is the hub center of that sixth sense. So whatever the sixth sense, the antenna is picking up whatever that sixth sense bracket is, or holding container is filling full up of. And the antenna picks up on that. And then that antenna goes down into all of our extrasensory kind of areas. And then that info comes in, and that's where the doorway is for us to understand what's happening around us. And so us perceiving and understanding the energetics of the world beyond the typical reality that we use our senses for is really where this antenna really helps us, right? This means we all have the ability, including animals, and some can be better at it due to that environment, right? But the point is that intuition is the doorway to other natural abilities we can expand into, such as psychic abilities, mediumship, telepathicness, and divination. So much of why we're not taught this and these kinds of things, or given a bad rap, is due to them being linked to the occult, as through the occult we have to gain these insights, right? But that's not true. These parts instead are just natural parts of us, to all of us. But these were things they couldn't control, like I was saying. And so they made us powerful if we knew these things. And so allowing us to embody and use all parts of us instead of just the few they deemed acceptable, as they labeled them as taboo and giving them a stigmatism, so that we didn't use them, so that we didn't think they were acceptable, so that we pretty much were scolding anybody else that was using these things beneficially, because we're like, no, you're woo-woo. Like, I can't believe you're tapping into that stuff. That's so bad. Meanwhile, we're completely then being like, oh, I'm shut off from it completely. I'm only doing whatever they were telling me now, right? And out of the two, what's unhealthy is the people driving you to shut off your intuition, because largely they've done that because they want you sick and unhealthy. And they only get that by you not tapping into the source that's like, this is sick and unhealthy, you know? So by the end of this video, I hope that our powers can be shown as innate rather than like only given to like chosen or special people. They're a part of us, and it's time for us to let them out, because the more that we can connect in this sixth sense, the more we can effectively make bigger change. You're going to see why in a second, because I'm going to explain how these kind of come hand in hand together, okay? So our sixth sense goes beyond the physical world, and instead of only using the physical sense, it instead relies on that sixth sense to perceive the spiritual world that is beyond our reality, allowing someone to use their intuition as an antenna for psychic senses to tune into the world or energy of the spirit, okay? These psychic senses are what we call clairs, all right? So we use clairs, you've probably heard of them, to receive intuitive information from various planes of existence. But the clairs are pretty much our soul's senses, all right? So this is when some people have certain ones that they are more intuitively better at, and that's just because they've been, again, a muscle that they have been able to naturally use more than others. We have all of the clairs. We're able to do all of these things. Some of them come to us more easily than others, and some of them, they do require a lot of practice, okay? So if you don't know the clairs, there are 6 of them. So clairvoyance, which is clear seeing, so seeing with your soul's eyes. Clairaudience, clear hearing, hearing with your soul's ears. Clairsentience, clear feeling, so feeling with your soul's sense. And then clear gustance, which is clear tasting, tasting with your soul's tongue, clear aliens, clear smelling, smelling with your soul's nose, and clear cognizance, which is clear knowing, so knowing with your soul's kind of brain, right? So for me, I personally know that I've always had clear cognizance, but because of my skin, I've also had clear sentience. So for me, those ones are ones that a lot of the time when people are asking me to prove stuff, I can't prove it. Clear cognizance is me just knowing it's true. And then later it's proof. So big part of my journey has been trusting before proof. I never had proof a lot of the time, which is why when I was younger, it was a lot easier for people to manipulate or distort what I was saying and me believe them, because I had nothing to back it up and I couldn't trust myself because I didn't know that, right? But now as an adult and seeing evidence over the course of my life and seeing how my intuition operates and how things communicate with me now, is very easy for me to see that that is something I've always had. And clairsentience, because my skin is so sensitive, I pick on sensations so easily. It is something I feel. I can feel very intuitively about stuff here, okay? So it is something that I can't show people what my skin is feeling. So when you ask me to show you what I'm sensing in that feeling kind of capacity, I can't do that, all right? So that's why these things, it gets to a point where you don't feel the need to explain or prove to yourself. A lot of this stuff is in ways that it's not going to make sense to anybody but you. And that's why it's really important to have clear, good intuition, because it's really easy to feed yourself negative lies or to focus on the fears, right? So anyways, the clairs are what lead to further psychic abilities, right? Because inside each of these are specific gifts, right, that you could be using. But they further your psychic abilities like telepathy, mediumship, communing with the dead, yes, shaman work, empathic ability. These are all things that you can perceive beyond the current. And even in the most subtle of energy, when you start getting into these clairs, they all tap into it. And so all of us can do these things, and others, it does take practice, but they're all building up your intuition. They're all helping you get to that place of using further these, which is why some people, if they started out intuitive, they might have already have some of these abilities. They might already be able to do some of this stuff, right? By developing and opening up to my intuitive self is what led me to my shamanic journey, led me to my shamanic practicing. And through that shamanic journey is what led me to take life coaching. And through life coaching, I realized how to apply this in a very physical, tangible way that honors all of the cycles that I've been taught already before this, right? And so when we open up to our clairs, it allows us to open up to all of these channels that can come through, because our soul can communicate through, our spirit can communicate to us in a variety of ways in our body, right? And through all of our senses. But they can talk to us in a variety of other ways as well, like signs and synchronicities, which are outside of us, which we'll get to. But what's interesting to discover when I was looking into these control tactics is the senses themselves. So we are only taught about the 5 senses that are mostly in our physical realm, and, you know, the ones that we typically know: smell, hear, taste, feel, and see. And even in the clairs, they're represented. But the thing that's weird is we're not told that we actually have 15 senses. And those 15 senses, right, they're hidden from us as a way to control and subdue us, largely in part by stifling the mind and its power. Okay, so when we look at those, the next 5, the bracket that they fall in, what they classify those as is brain activators, right? These: imagination, expanded focus, deep empathy, conscious visualization, and emotional memory. If you do anything with doing any kind of psychology or self-improvement or any kind of spiritual work, a lot of the tools and tricks that they use focus around these core things, right? Building up imagination. What does your imagination build on when you want to think of where you want to go in the future? When you want to leap up to your dreams, look at her in the clouds, right? Yeah, that's intuitive sign. She is my intuitive little beacon sometimes. Expanded focus, being able to deeply integrate. Why do you think that they've removed our being able to focus on something? Because they want us to be so distracted that we can't truly get to the root or focus on something to allow it to be fully saturated in us, right? Deep empathy, one of the things they've attacked is us caring about each other. When in reality, the more we connect with each other, the more we're connecting as one. Realizing how connected we are, right? And this activates us. It opens up. Empathy makes your brain work very rapidly in a lot of different ways. And conscious visualization, huge, powerful technique for manifesting, right? And that goes hand in hand with imagination. What can you imagine? Now, how do we visualize making a real thing? And that goes hand in hand with also emotions, because in order to tap into visualization, you need to feel what that feels like. So if you don't have that deep empathy, if you can't expand your focus, if you don't have emotional memory about what joy and that stuff feels like, how can you bring those into your imagination or your visualizations, right? So these are called mind activators because they get the mind primed and working again. They turn it on and get the juices in there, right? The last 5 senses, these are called the soul abilities, right? And this is why this is important, because this is where pure intuition is. This is where remote viewing lies. This is where clairvoyancy is, telepathy, and psychometry. Psychometry is where you can touch objects and sense information from them from the past or current. And so these things are, again, all things that we have. These are all things that sometimes when you touch stuff, you genuinely can tell you like or don't like something, right? So that's important to know about these soul abilities, because again, these are all allowing our soul to expand and see all these different ways that we can easily access things if we allow ourselves, right? And so some of you might not know what some of these are, but that's okay, because part of this is learning about them. But the whole point was not to go into how to do these in this video. It's about understanding how intuition is literally that hub center that festers out into all of these little itty bitty areas. And your intuition brings in what you know is for you. So part of what your imagination visualization is tapping into is what your intuition is picking up in the spirit world about what you're capable of bringing forth, right? So if your intuition is shut down, your imagination shut down, your visualization shut down, you don't think you can create anything. You don't hear any voice to help you think you can either, because you've shut it down so much that you don't even let it tell you what it wants to create, what it wants to come forward. So it's important to know these things for true self-development so that we can know what's normal. These are normal. These are not freaky deaky things. These are normal things, like the blood in our veins that we have not been taught about for a reason, right? And so we want to know how we can use these abilities, how we can strengthen them. And we understand why these areas now are ones they didn't want us to fully be aware of. It makes us hardly ungovernable when we constantly are like, we can change this world. This reality don't need to be this way. None of the people need to operate this way, right? Let's teach them, right? Like, it can truly change the world when we know that that is possible. Versus this is how it is and how it's always been done. So we can't really change it too drastically, right? Anyways, we've been gaslit away from them. As in society, what's wrong and healthy and unhealthy is what it wants for us a lot of the time, because it wants us numbing ourselves to be able to successfully turn off these skills and abilities so that the sense is disabled, and therefore we feel this is as good as it gets and unable to see, visualize more. As then it's not the world that's wrong, it's us. It's very important to remember. So then it's not the world that's wrong. It's not society wrong. They've wanted it always to feel like it's us. That we need to fit the mold. That we need to tap in and accept what's not for us because it's right for everybody and you just got to handle it, right? But the truth is, it's not our normal and we should stop making it. And with the sixth sense, and with our intuition intact, right? When we let the sixth sense come through our antenna, we let that information trickle down into our body, and it allows us to understand this isn't for me. This isn't right for the planet. This isn't right for the people or animals in it. This isn't good, right? So then once we get in touch with that, we would not participate in this at all, which is what we're seeing a large part of withdrawal from people participating nowadays, right? So how do we develop intuition and strengthen it? Well, it's not that bad. It's really easy. There's a lot of things we can do. We've talked about one of them, which is the daily awareness check-in. So this is a non-judgmental time to check in with yourself on your thoughts or feels, and even just 5 minutes to observe. And sometimes midday is really good because you've had stuff come up at that point. But sometimes if it is somewhere you don't feel like you can actually take the time to decompress or really go through it, or you're worried about what something might come up, the end of the day when you're alone might be better, right? But another thing, acting faster, that's another thing. Just immediately get an intuitive hit, follow it, right? And even if it doesn't work out, look in the ways that it might work out outside of the initial way that you think it should, right? Be open. Let go of those controlling the outcomes, because not always your intuition going to operate in ways that you can predict like that. Even for me, it sometimes throws me for a loop, but later on I'm like, that makes total sense. Okay, so body scans is another one. This is one that I learned in life coaching, but it is taught in quite a lot of different fields, which you scan your body and sense wherever you're holding tension, but you can also do it for calmness or warmth, and think of different topics or areas, and then listen and focus on cues for what feels right or off. So go over different parts of your body when you're thinking certain things, and where you might feel that hurt or where you might feel that joy, and when it feels off, you're going to get that constriction and get that tension, right? So you look back at all those things that you get for anxiety or non-intuitive focus. And if that's what kind of comes up in your body, it's a no for you, right? There's something wrong in that area that you should probably listen to. And if you get all those good intuitive vibes, right? Those things that open and expand you and they feel like yeses, then those are more things that you know now that's for you. Affirmation. Okay, the next one, follow your small nudges, trust your impulse, do what calls to you without a why. So that's also acting hand in hand with the acting faster, right? Oh, that nudged me. I got to go that way. Notice synchronicities. So this is tracking meaningful connections and signs. And so there are tons of signs and synchronicities. The biggest ones that I could say is numbers. People sometimes say angel numbers. And if you don't know what those are, I'll do an episode in the future on signs and stuff, and different ones of these broken down. But the other ones, animals, a lot of animals, especially ones that repeat or very much stick out to you. Sometimes the higher emotional reaction you have when you're seeing the animal is the bigger indicator. The other things could be your body cues. Those are also part of the signs and synchronicities. It could be things happening around you, like coincidental, like people talking about something that you were just thinking about doing and it coming up to be like, yeah, I should follow that. So somebody bringing up, oh, I want to learn this thing, and you also want to learn about that thing. Go do something to go about learning about that day or soon, right? It's just about to notice whatever aligns. So whatever kind of comes up, but anything could be a sign or a symbolism. So you could also find a picture, like a symbol out there. And sometimes it's very random. Like to some people, like one day I was walking and there was a red hair tie on the ground, And when you look that up, a red hair tie, it harkens back to the red string theory, right? You're connected with people. One time I found this random blue umbrella in a bush, and I looked up what a random blue umbrella means, right? And so there's these different things and different symbolisms that can come from different random things that we see out in the world. And sometimes it's important. You can also set up, I don't want to say triggers, but almost like jackpoint landing. So you're being confirmed. So for me, a lot of the time when I see something yellow, so when I'm out and about on an errand and I see something yellow, it is a sign that I'm acting in accordance with my higher path. Usually it's not going to be common stuff like a cab, because cabs here are yellow. But people wearing yellow, certain vehicles that are yellow, certain things that I see that are yellow, not signs per se or buildings, but certain unique things where I'm like, that's a sign, right? And you can set that up for whatever you want. That's why some people set certain words that people say, right? You can use them and set it out as an intention for yourself to create your own sign and what it means for you, right? And anyways, there's also, you can do deep listening with intuitive questions. So this is a form of meditation where you go with a focused intention into it. You ask a few questions, either when you first get into the circle or while you're in the meditation, and then you wait for answers. You wait. And sometimes they don't come to you right in the meditation. Sometimes they will, but sometimes they'll come right after the meditation, right? And you're supposed to operate on whatever that comes up for you again. But you can then see that you can really call on your intuition whenever you do choose to. It's just more about, are you going to, right? That's the same with guides or your help, because there are guides giving you signs, but part of who delivers signs to you, like when you see angel numbers, it's not just angels. Your future self is also coming back to deliver some signs and messages just for you. So your intuitive self is leaving these for you. Sometimes there are other higher dimensional beings trying to help guide you. Sometimes it's ancestors, right? They can come back and they can give us signs as well of support and feedback. But most of the time, it's coming, you can know that you can ask for yourself to help yourself with these things, right? And so it's about really listening for what comes up and knowing that you're always going to get an answer if you do ask and are open to help, open to assistance. Support from other beings are always going to help you, but you're definitely always going to come help yourself, okay? So listen and make note or research your dreams. So dreams are incredibly important with intuition because, again, the subconscious, anything that is part of subconscious work, which dreams work in the subconscious, right? And why they're so powerful and why they also don't always make sense, because they're not speaking to us in typical words. They're speaking to us in signs and symbols, like I was just talking about. And so when you do the research and you look into those, you can see what your dreams are also trying to tell you. So doing a dream journal and stuff like that is really helpful, but also just really understanding the signs and symbols. Like sometimes just waking up, looking into the dream, burp, confirmation. So sometimes it really is helpful because they do give you nuggets for the direction you're going, but also give you clues as to what's going to maybe happen next or the direction you're already moving. So sometimes it's not that I don't recall a lot of my dreams. I do recall my dreams, but the ones that I specifically remember specific details on usually are allowing me to see a direction I'm going and confirming usually that. My last one was about an initiation that I was going through, right? And I knew that I was already going through it, but it was letting me know that it was coming to a completion, right? And without me looking into it, without me paying attention, I would not know that it was telling me that. Right? And so our dreams can really be a confirmation of either where we're at or where we need to go or what we're working through that's still really affecting us emotionally, okay? Everything means something. That's important to remember. So, but another thing, any form of meditation, so you can use anything. Like I was saying before, the intention and point of this is just to create space, mental space for your intuitive voice to be heard, which when you are meditating, it is more quiet. You're able to control your thoughts more, even though it's not about getting rid of the thoughts. It's about knowing that you can just be present in the moment, and that in itself limits how much baggage is happening all at once, okay? And so, and the next kinds of things is being present in the body. So you can do those scans and that awareness check, like I was saying, those do help, but so does yoga, and somatics, or dancing. Anything that allows you to connect with your body and be able to notice the sensations, to really be present in it, that is always going to be really beneficial, because then you're a channel for your intuition. Because a lot of the time when you're very present in your body, you're not thinking then, are you? You're just doing, you're just going with it. And part of being in that flow is allowing the intuition to take out its form, right? So the next step is breathing to connect with your life or body yourself. So there's different breathing techniques you can do, but a lot of them really understanding that breathing is about really connecting with you, you know, what's going on, like breathing in that life to you and from life itself. Very important. Journaling and writing, the freedom of expressions helps, again, allow your voice kind of to step up, to know that it's allowed to take stage. First beginning journals, if you've never done them, you're going to have a lot maybe of emotions, or may not have a lot to say. Like sometimes when you first start journaling, if you don't want to, it can be awkward. But then suddenly when you realize that you're free to express yourself, it can be very cathartic about letting this stuff out that never felt like it really got addressed to anybody and didn't matter to anybody as much as you. And then you can burn that if you want. I do recommend burning a lot of very emotional stuff to tangibly be like goodbye, right? To free yourself from it. You could go bury that to be like, it's gone to bed now. It's been put to death. It's done. I don't have to carry it or hold on to it. And I do a lot of these rituals and ceremonies as a way of formally making these moments in my life. And most of the people that I've done them with, they have been very big assets for them, because most of the time we don't make tangible steps being like, this is squash for me, right? We're like, I guess it's still in the background a little bit sometimes, right? So anyways, journaling and writing is really helpful because it does let a lot of stuff out. And the first few things might not be your intuitive voice, but eventually when you run out of all of that baggage that needed to be get out, the intuitive voice then is allowed to speak. So then you'll have a lot more of your dreams, your ambitions, your feelings. And like, for me, my favorite thing is like these amazing quotes or amazing just point of views come out when I'm writing. And it could be I'm writing about nothing. Sometimes I'm writing about something important. But the point is I give the space for all of it to come out, and slowly you realize part of your intuitive voice is in there too. So quite beautiful stuff. I love journaling personally. It's really important, I find, for intentional work, which is part of working with the spirit. So, because it's creating something tangible about what you want, but also about what you can release. And so it's very powerful. Anyways, practice mindfulness. So being in your body, being present, or being really grateful of what's happening. Mindfulness is incredibly important. It's probably one of my mindfulness meditation is my favorite thing. To go on a walk in nature and just be incredibly present in my body and extremely grateful for every little detail that I'm seeing. One of my favorite meditations, as somebody with ADHD, as somebody that is extremely sensitive to energies and needs grounding frequently, to get out into nature, my favorite thing for the grounding, but also the health benefits of just the fresh air and stuff, which another thing you're going to get out on this list to strengthen your intuition is literally just to get out into nature, okay? And so doing the mindfulness meditation out there, it is a time to not only truly be out in nature, but to truly be grateful for what I see out in nature. And in doing so, it a lot of the time allows for metaphors or integration of wisdom for me that my intuition wants to come out. And sometimes, again, like I spoke about early on in the video, is some of these points you're going there to activate yourself, right? And so in getting there, I activated these certain upgrades or lessons or understandings, and now my intuition is putting them together. And so that mindfulness has allowed that to take place, because if I was so busy and needing to do something when I was out there, I wouldn't have the mental space to be putting all of that or allowing all that to happen, right? So next one, following gut instincts, so letting your body wisdom be your guide. So again, yeses equal expansion, nos equal contraction, versus lean out versus a lean in, right? Trying on a new world vision with fresh eyes. So if you are constantly been bogged down about not being intuitive and not being allowed to see the world as you should see it from your own eyes, it's really helpful to put on a fresh pair of eyes, to act like you were just born, or somebody just gave you a new lease on life, or you died and now you've come back and this is your first day on earth. Like, what you truly want to bask in and enjoy and see, and just see the world from a fresh pair of eyes, where things that you maybe took for granted, now you can be grateful for, or things that you never really got to see in that way, now you can see in that way, because baby eyes, when they're seeing the world for everything, is magnificent. Why do you think they, don't really want to go to sleep sometimes? Is they don't want to miss out on one little ounce of what they're seeing. So, trying out the world with new vision has been incredibly helpful for me, because for a long time, I thought of the world as black and white when I first was before my healing days, right? And so a lot of seeing the world that way, it made changing really hard, because I did not see the way to do that. But with a new fresh pair of eyes, nothing I live like, nothing I had to be like in the past, nothing that I'd known the world to be had to be that way. I got to question what actually is reality, and the reality I want to see. And if I remove all those limitations, all those blinders, all those beliefs, what is actually out here? What can this become, right? And with a fresh pair of eyes, you are allowed to see what it can become versus what it's been controlled to look like, right? So anyways, another one is enjoy all of your senses. This is one of my favorites, because I think a large part of why we've been so busy and tapped out of our bodies is so that we don't really enjoy ourselves, don't really listen to our senses. And so take time to feel, to play with them, to do stuff that really gets you into your sensuality. One of the things you can do if you're really not good at it, or even if you just really need good grounding in a moment of super high emotionality, is to use your senses, right? To go into a place, sit down and take a moment, and then list 3 things that you can that align with each of the senses in that moment. So smell, taste, hear, smell, or feel. All those things, see what comes up for you. And then that is a quick way to get you into your body. But also then you're speaking with your intuition, what those senses are picking up on, right? And so that's something you can do. Technology fasting is another really good thing, because again, clears up that mental space. Technology is a really big way for us to distract ourselves from ourselves. So taking a fast from it can be really beneficial, or a detox. Spending time feeling and sensing over thinking. So this is, again, largely why with the senses or getting out into nature, mindfulness or breathing, it's really just about feeling and sensing. It's about removing that logical component that really is driving you all the time. Because then when you're in your head, you're not in your body. We want to bring it down into the body, okay? So, spend time outside. Again, benefits a lot of things. But you can do tarot cards, but I also don't really want to encourage people to only use tarot cards to get in contact with your spirit, your intuition. Because this, again, puts it on an external source. Just like you don't want to only come to me or only go to guides or only need to speak to your guides. At some point, you want to speak to just you and know you can talk to you without the use of anything else. And that's what we've been building up, is intuition that is internal, right? So yeah, you can use tarot cards. You can specifically set an intention to speak with your intuition and have them answer the questions. But again, don't set up tarot without knowing how to properly open and close your circles and to call in specific people so that you prevent any energies that you don't want from coming in. So tarot cards is one that you should use with caution, and again, not something that you should rely on, okay? Practicing active listening is a huge one, because how can you listen to your intuition if you're not listening? So we can't hear unless we listen. And so part of that means knowing that you have to play a role in listening as well, which I've had to do a lot of, is not just knowing I think I know what I know. I have had to listen to what is going to come up for me. So, and it's also important to know that divine messengers are everywhere. Sometimes that intuition or that sign or synchronicity or angels or higher dimensional beings are coming to you in a variety of different ways. And so if you're not listening to maybe random people trying to talk to you, or maybe random songs or random signs and stuff, you're not listening to the full messages because you're not open to hearing it. And they are coming from a variety of sources. And so practicing active listening and active observing what's going on is going to be incredibly beneficial, because those are what are going to help you recognize your intuition hits something, right? When something's like, they said this and this just really aligned with me, right? Okay, so creating anything creates an open channel. So like creativity is a huge thing, but specifically you can do like a vision or an action board, and then this gives focus, it unloads your mind, it aids in visualization, and it makes it more tangible. So this is why it's so powerful to create these, because now instead of it being like this far-fetched idea, you've made it tangible by making it reality in front of you. It also gives you a guiding post of where you want to go, and that helps in visualizing and being able to be in these things that you want to see, right? And so then the next step is you want to take some steps towards that, even if they're little steps. It doesn't have to be anything, but even making the vision or action board is a step towards it, because you're claiming that's the vision, right? That's the where you're going towards. So you can also draw or doodle. If you do not like writing for journaling, one of the other things you can do is make an art journal instead. And sometimes that's a lot easier, because then instead of having to use words, you can use pictures. There's also taking a break from busyness, mind racing, and endless to-dos. That's really important. Again, mental space. It's really hard to integrate wisdom or to hear yourself if you're so busy and hectic with other information, right? So another one is follow your bliss. This is probably my favorite. This is one of the things I teach most people, because most of the time this is always going to put you in alignment with your intuition anyway. So following your bliss is whatever sparks joy, passion, excitement, activities, people, things, places, any and all, but not within restraints, right? Nothing that makes you numb or disassociate from yourself. These are all things that make you tap into you and make you feel more truly vibrant and alive. So these are things that are truly just beneficial for you, because they actually feel like they completely tap you into a part of this bliss that you didn't even know was waiting for you until you did this thing, right? And that's how I feel when I dance or when I get in these videos, which is sometimes why they're so long, which this one probably will be, but I knew it. So anyways, another one is to align with your values. So this is what I was talking about earlier, is a lot of people, when they get to that level of the last or highest step of intuition, conscious intuition development, that is where you're at. You already know what aligns with you and what doesn't. So you're really not concerned about the stuff that isn't part of that, right? So With this one, you want to prioritize what matters, help encourage and foster greater authenticity with yourself, and make it easier to tap into your intuition then. Because if you're only listening to what tells you, no, you can't do this, and like following all things that don't matter to you, then it's really hard for your intuition to be like, but this is what matters, right? You're like, no, this is all that has to matter, right? Like your ego. No, this matters. Like when people are like, oh, you haven't had like 5 babies and you don't own a home and you're not a billionaire, you're not successful, right? But do those things align with your values? If you don't want kids, if you don't want a house, if you don't want to be a billionaire, then that doesn't really matter. None of those things matter to you. So technically you're still successful because your metrics of success are different. And so your intuition is largely going to tell you what matters to you and where your markers of success should be, where your markers of progress are. And it's not about listening to outer stuff. And that's why it's important to have these, because when you know where your values are, then you know when you're matching what you need to, when you're following what you need to, and you don't have to get distracted by the outside noise trying to tell you anything else, right? By distractions, by the pointless things that are continuing to ceasing to matter to us the more that we become familiar with ourselves, right? So embracing your creativity in general, I was saying it already, but like for me, that's painting, writing, music, dancing, building, gardening, swimming, nature outings, drawings, poems, like it can be anything. It just means to create from your own true core. So it's about listening to what calls to you. But the biggest thing in any creativity that if you're doing this for to tap into your intuition is you have to remove perfectionism. Perfectionism will kill everything because in order to just allow yourself to be in flow, it requires no judgment. And perfectionism is literally continuously judging yourself and your work, right? So you want to let that activity completely consume you, to be in flow with it. And when that happens, it allows your intuitive mind to channel and flow out and come out to create or express in whatever way it needs to desire, right? Or it needs or wants because it desires to. So play is actually what allows us the most ability to tap into our intuitive self, which is why it's so important to have these moments of literally taking space for yourself to do things that matter for you, because play and not needing to be perfect is what helps you grow, because then you are okay with whatever comes out. It doesn't have to match a certain standard. It just gets to be what it is, which is why largely these videos are what they are. At some point, this is how the message needs to come out. At some point, this is me authentically. And so it's okay for it not to be perfect, because it's not about it being perfect, because none of us are, right? So, and things don't need to fit in these nice little boxes that they want them to. And largely when they do, they're missing a big part of the information, right? So anyway, so it's important to do this regularly with zero expectation of yourself, okay? And then you want to surrender and let go, because even in creativity, even in producing anything, even in letting something out, you cannot control all of the things, right? So I have to surrender and put these out and just let go and let them be what they're going to be, right? But we need to surrender over to the idea of something too. Sometimes you have to allow yourself to know this needs to be birthed out of you and to let it come out. And sometimes there's a huge surrendering to that, which I had, right? And usually the bigger the surrendering, the more important you know it is, because there's nothing that gets you that emotionally heightened without it mattering, okay? But yeah, also using all your new knowledge to aid in trusting the process helps us to embrace not knowing and having deeper faith. When we don't know what's going to come up, it's hard to let go of what we know we have and, is conscious to us, right? But in this building up the process of your intuition, the biggest thing is to trust yourself. And in trusting, we have to just surrender. We have to just know that there's going to be the unknown and it's going to be okay no matter what. And so it is a big part of this step is to move forward, is to let go and surrender it all. And to know whatever's on the other side, even though you have no idea what it is, because largely we've been limited our whole life, right? In some kind of way. Knowing that it's going to be so much better than whatever restrictions you have had to hold on to your whole life that haven't felt healthy or right, okay? Another thing you can do, simple one, research intuition. Even watching this video, picking up anything to do with intuition, any of the clairs, anything to do with psychic development, anything like that. this sends a little energetic signal to your intuition that you're open, you're willing, and you're ready to connect and grow. And so even in just doing that, you're opening an invitational line for it to help you build them already. So even just looking in and trying, that is enough as well to help grow your intuition, because it knows you're ready to now. You're open to hear it, right? And one of my favorites, again, is celebrating your success, your progress in this work alone. So a lot of the time, especially if you're starting out at a basic level, you really need to celebrate when you have those hits and they align. And even when they don't and you doubt it, you really need to celebrate that your intuition knew that. And even though you doubted it, you're going to listen in the future because I heard you, and good job on calling that out before it happened, right? It's about really being also grateful and recognizing the signs and celebrating your success and putting and connecting certain dots for signs, synchronicities, or messages, about following the initiatives right away. But it's about also being thankful for any intuitive hits that come up, about being just really grateful that you can hear them and you can hear the difference and you can sense it in you, any of the changes for that. But then it's also about celebrating your success for your journey overall. How far have you come in general from where you once were, right? I know I've come astronomical far, and sometimes it comes up and hits me in the face at how far I've come, and it is bewildering to me that I was even there in the first place, right? And so it's also about celebrating any big or small steps you make now towards advancement or even just honoring yourself. And also about celebrating when you do learn from your past mistakes or when you do have insights come up about them or integrate anything. It's about truly celebrating all the successes of this journey, because it's not just about, oh, I got the job I wanted. That's great and all, but when we're talking about intuitive hits, it's, oh, I'm grateful that I follow my intuition to go towards the job that truly called to my soul and makes my heart feel alive every time I go to work. That's a successful thing on top of the fact you got the job that you want, right? But it was about listening to yourself to know that was the job you should go towards, or the relationship, or the health modality, anything that is an intuitive hit that guided you and it feels aligned. Celebrate that. Be so grateful that something told you about this, right? And that you listened. The other one is an active essential engagement with intuition. So this was aligning to, or talking about when I was talking about needing to remember that, writing out intentions and asking for help and stuff. You want to interact with your intuition. You want to ask for its help. You want to have this open connection and relationship and bond with it, because it's supposed to be your friend in that way, right? It's always there helping you. So at some point, if you're not asking for guidance or help, if you're not setting intentions, if you're not doing any of those things, you're not really working on how to build the intuitive muscles, right? If you're not doing any of these things I've just listed, you're already not trying to help yourself. But if you are, then you are building up those muscles, and they are a muscle that does take time, and there are very many different ways that you can build them, right? And so these ones are some of the more important ones that I felt that all matter. I'm trying to include as much information as possible, which I know is probably overwhelming, but that's okay. If it's overwhelming, you can pause the video at any time. But one of my favorite quick tools for body intuitive questions, this one is best for me and I use it all the time. And this one is you just put your hands over your heart and then you ask yourself, typically body confirmations, if it's typically yes or no questions. Is this best for me? Does this align with me? Should I be doing this? And then whatever the question is, you ask yourself. If you lean forward, it's a yes, right? If you lean back, it's a no. The further and more forceful the pull back or forward feels, the stronger the yes or no is, okay? So if you fall forward or fall backwards, that is a very big yes or no, okay? All right, and so I think that's it for those things. And now the next space is signs or ways that we can block our intuition, okay? Okay, so fear and overthinking, which is overriding with worries, anxiety, need for logic and proof, people pleasing, prioritizing people or others' needs over yours. This means that you've lost a connection to your personal needs and boundaries, but also you're too consumed with others to nourish your own. So mental emotional overload in fast-paced environments, stress, trauma, drowned out. You drown out the quiet and subtle whispers of your intuition. Perfectionism, fear of doing it wrong, needing to be at some ideal state before being worthy, blocks your internal integral truth of the soul as worthy and deserving, and leading to paralysis, reliance on rigidity, and logical planning overflow. All right, emotional factors, cluttered, unkept, dark living spaces can block your ability to connect with yourself or be too distracted to do so. Second guessing yourself, constantly doubting decisions, or trying to need to validate them before you can believe them, right? Physical distress, constantly in a state of needing to survive or protect yourself, can also shut it down because then you're too consumed in the physical again, right? Constant betrayals or negative outcomes. These are when you have repetitive cycles continuously coming up and you knew better but didn't listen. Again, you're ignoring your intuition and telling it doesn't know better. You're not heeding the signs of a repetitive cycle, right? So living on autopilot and stagnation, these are all forms of what that is, right? It's because you're not taking the initiative to learn, which living on autopilot means you're just continuously doing the same thing. Whatever worked before, you're doing it again. And stagnation means you're not really progressing. You just continue, you're okay with being where you're at. But it stifles intuition because intuition wants to grow and expand. So if you're constantly not pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, not facing and dealing with stuff, you're creating stagnation, and that blocks intuition. Constant state of fight or flight, again, that's the physical distress. You're not safe enough to expand. Sensory overload and distractions, again, keeping you very tapped out because you don't have the mental space to deal with stuff, which is why overworking, overeating, or overdoing anything in excess is also ways to stifle your intuition, because that overdoing it, again, so much distraction, not enough mental clarity. Avoidance of gut feelings or slowing and blocking them more and more, so silencing yourself. So like this is where you're continuously dismissing what your body's telling you, telling it's crazy and stuff like that. Slowly the body stops talking to you in the ways that it had, and slowly your intuition stops talking to you as loud or as frequent. And so when you dismiss your intuition's calls, it gets quieter. So yeah, that's how you're going to stifle it, is you're going to slowly tell it doesn't matter. Another way is to make your pineal gland unhealthy. The pineal gland is one of the core, I'd say, foundational areas of your brain for intuition. It's the literal antenna in the brain. And by us calcifying it, making it harder, which they do with like fluoride accumulation, circadian disruption, which is like our sleep cycles, right? Chronic inflammation, refined sugars, processed flours, and vegetable oils or seed oils, those kinds of things, toxic in our food, any kind of programmed kind of food is literally lacking the stuff that we need for our body, and instead is injecting it with poisons and stuff that literally their main intention, if you were to look in some of the documents that's been released recently, is to shut that down, because it is what enables these soul abilities, these next level, that sixth sense intuition. It shuts it off because it dismantles our antenna and that hub center, okay? So that's really important. One of the things I made a big change to with my health, first and foremost, was anything to help my pineal gland become decalcified and become more stronger, healthier, right? And so anything that health-wise is pointing you in that direction, that is one of the great key starting points to start if you want to help your intuition. Breast suppression, we largely be surprised at how many people don't know how to breathe properly. And so shallow chest only is really a high state of alert. That's what you're signaling to your body. And so when we are in rest and digest mode, which is needed for intuitive flow, because then you're not in that fight or flight, that's when you're going to be breathing a lot differently. So if you are doing those deep expansive breaths that allow you to connect with your body, that's when intuition is going to come through. If you're constantly never breathing properly, for one, your brain is never getting the oxygen it needs. Therefore, your nervous system is never getting the full rest that it needs. Therefore, you're constantly in a heightened state of arousal. So that way, your intuition is not really easily able to come through because it's being drowned out by your fear of flight modes, okay? So physical tension, chronic or tension in your jaw and shoulders. If that keeps happening, that again is stifling you because there's a message behind that you're not listening to, and you're deciding to carry on the baggage of it rather than dealing with it. Hereditary lifestyles also very bad because again, intuition wants you to evolve. It wants to be in movement. It wants to have that new energy flow. And when you are sitting down and not doing anything different, it doesn't allow us to connect to movement nor to our body, and it makes it harder to recognize any somatic markers, which those are those internal body feelings or gut feels, because we don't have them showing up because it's harder for them to be prompted if the body has been told to shut down. All right, which is largely why we have been brought to a place where they'd rather pay us to be scrolling all day than they would pay us to go out for a hike. Okay. Anyway, emotional suppression and minimizing makes sense. Using emotional reasoning from intense moments as facts. So when you're highly emotional charged, allowing fear, anxiety of those kinds of states to allow your thinking always to predetermine that's your intuition or calling you in a certain direction, or those are facts because you got hurt and that's now where that's just it now. That's always going to shut off your intuition, because your intuition is always going to be pushing you to evolve, right? So if you're not open to that, it's not going to help, which usually most people, like myself, if I look back at a heightened state of emotion another time when I'm in a different frame of mind, I look at it completely differently. There are a bunch of different perspectives that I can take and a lot of different lessons I can learn from it. And my intuition is partly teaching me that so I can integrate the wisdom, so I can do better in the next time. So if you're not allowing yourself that time to open up and see that, then yeah, it's hard for your intuition to come through because you're not willing to integrate the wisdom. You don't want to hear what it has to say. You want to focus on what the emotional reactivity is telling you, which if you allow your emotional reactivity to run you, it'll run you into the ground, right? Intuition is what wants to build you up. If you were a tree, it wants to help you grow your roots strong so you don't get taken down by anything, but it also wants to uplift you all the way to the sky too, right? So there's both of it. It knows you need to go deeper, which sometimes is more painful to understand, but it does help you reach more to the cosmos, the sky, right? Which is why I like trees, as above, so below, right? So the more that you suppress, the more you run from these things, the more you don't learn from them, the more you're stifling that intuition, because you can't allow yourself to go deeper, which means you can't let yourself go higher. One of the things, that's why we say that people who are unwilling to really look at themselves, they can't really go very far. You know? Anyways, but over intellectualizing, so overthinking or applying over logic doesn't help. Creates more rumination, which again stifles intuition, because again you're too busy overthinking. Cultivating reactivity, so this is again about the emotions, right? If you're too busy reacting, you're not really responding. You're letting your emotions run you, so you just are reacting to whatever is around. But if you take time to respond, for one, the emotions don't play as much turmoil on you. For two, you can actually understand what the moment is calling for you. You can give yourself the opportunity to respond in a different way. That was a big one, apparently. And that one is a big one for me because with my ADHD, I can be very impulsive, right? And extremely emotionally reactive. And depending on where I'm at and what my needs are and what I have or haven't done for myself in a day could change that ratio for me. And being mindful of that, you know, instead of cultivating reactivity and being like, that's just how I am. I'm like, oh, what do you need today, Jennifer? Because this is not like you and you're reacting in this way, which I know that you don't want to, right? And so cultivating would be like, yeah, keep acting that way. For me, instead, it's like, no, we need to uproot what that reactivity was about and see the source of it, and then either fulfill my needs or talk to myself and like work through something, right? So hyper-rationalization, good one as well, right? So sometimes that's, instead of the where I just was with this, right, what I was just talking about looking into something, this is more about if you are trying, your intuition comes through and you are like, why? Instead of understanding your own why to something, This is where you're like, I need the proof. And unless I have proof, this feels irrational. This feels unreliable. I can't listen to my feelings. I can't listen to my intuition about this because I need to rationalize what's going on here. And I need that extra level of it, right? There's a difference between going through something to understand it. And then there's a difference between rationalizing yourself out of something that you know is good for you, because then all of a sudden now you've dismissed what came up and you think that you don't know, right? You can't act on that now because, oh, I'm just a silly person, so this silly person can never be doing that. No, right? No, it's not what we want. Neglecting stillness and silence, obviously that makes sense. Externalizing authority, so this is where I was talking about with the tarot cards and whatnot. It's really important that you don't outsource your inner knowing. You need to talk to yourself. And the biggest person that you can have is the expert of you. And that means talking to you. You can go to some experts, but external people. But the problem with this is believing they're the only ones with the answers. They're the only ones that can help you. They're the only ones that can understand. Versus you knowing that the authority, the sovereignty that you have in yourself, that inner knowing knows all and is connected to everything that those persons are connected to, just in a different way than you are. And so it's important for you to figure out your own key of the puzzle, because they can only take you so far. Even their signs or symbolism, even my own, they are not going to be the same for you. Your life, your symbols, everything has come to you specifically, like Carl Jung says. Everything comes up uniquely for you, and there's a reason why you should do your research. There's a reason why you should have your own tarot decks. There's a reason you should do your own stuff for yourself, because what other people deduce is not going to be the same thing that you might conclude, okay? And it's okay to get other people as a second confirmation or feedback or something, especially when you're starting out. But take it from somebody who knows. The more that you can rely on yourself in the beginning, the stronger and quicker your intuition will come on, because the stronger you're learning that you only need you. You have everything inside of you. And that's the biggest thing for you to learn, is that it does all come from you. Okay? So, lacking boundaries is another one. Conforming to fit or suit others' needs or anything that they want. Very bad for us, because again, not putting us in alignment. It's different if what they want for us truly aligns with a dream vision we have that they know about, and they're, wanting to help us get there. Is entirely different when they're like, you can't be that way, and it's just you being you. That's different. Building self-doubt. So anything that makes you continuously build up your self-doubt with yourself, very crucial to know that that's a problem. So the last thing I want to touch on is there's a lot of different research, history, that goes way back to the beginning of civilization, talking about intuition. And some of that is like in ancient Egypt, the Hermetic principles. Then there's the Vedic science and pineal gland with ancient India. Shamanic wisdom and the animalistic truth is like the oldest spiritual practice. But there's also the Taoist alchemy, which is ancient China, internal alchemy, and then which it had internal alchemy and part of that. Sorry. But also then there's the early mysticism. And so there's a lot of different areas of science, history, religion, beliefs, everything. A lot of different philosophies about intuition out there, and how we can use a lot of different ways to get into touch with it and how it's useful for us. Point being, it's important, and it has been since the dawn of our time. And that's one of the reasons they have not want us to know about it, okay? Also, I want to make a touch point on saying that your intuition largely is part of your third eye and your crown chakra. So if you wanted to help specifically feed or help build off of those, which I'll get into another thing about chakras, but the point is you want to look into things, foods, activities, stuff like that can elevate and help those chakras, and it will help your intuition. And part of that, since the crown chakra is more like an indigo or a white color, it's about eating more about clear stuff. So we're drinking more clear stuff. So coconut water in general, but also teas. It's really good about being outside in nature, because you really want to open up this crowd the area to be an open source for intuitive knowledge to come to you. So getting a lot of fresh air, being in nature, being in the sun is really good, but also moon gazing is really good. Eating stuff like cauliflower, mushrooms, I think onions and garlic, those are all really good as well. Lychee. And then for the third eye, it's darker, right? So it's more of like an indigo, deep, kind of bluey purple. So like any really richly colored berries, cacao, blue lotus, lavender, holy basil, mugwort, chlorophyll, algae, apple cider vinegar, omega-3s, nuts, and seeds. Like those are all really going to be really good, beneficial for the third eye and for the crown. Those are all little things. There's like different yoga. There's different tone frequencies that you can play if you wanted to help. There's a lot of different things you can do to stimulate these chakra points. And the only reason I bring them up is because when I started in the energetics, I started with chakras. That was one of the first things I looked into before I became very aware of my intuition. And that helped me to understand the different things and different ways that were coming up in my body, to see what was happening in a way that wasn't beneficial for me, but was beneficial in me putting the puzzle pieces together. Okay, so I bring this up now just because it is a starting point to get to know about how those kind of interrelate and how they can feed different areas of our body if they are out of whack. Okay, so for me, we're at the end here now, so thank you for staying with me. I know this was a real long one, but for me, a big sign that my intuition is at play or the ego's at play is when I really start to protest something a great deal. For me, if it's a no, then it usually goes away, right? If it's not, my intuition is pinging me. And my intuition now does ping me repetitively, especially when there's something I need to do. It's never going to go away. So if there's a spot you need to go to, a location, you're always going to be called there. You know, so if you get called to travel somewhere, specifically one spot, it will never go away. You will always want to go there until you go there, because there's something you need to do or be or activate while you're there, okay? And so for me, when I protest too much with something, there is a reason I'm protesting. There is a reason I'm fighting it. And now it's not just a one-off chance of me saying no to this because, oh, I don't feel like it today. This is now something that has come up repetitively that I should do, and I keep feeling like so afraid or talking myself out of it, right? So one of the biggest thing that you can do, talking self out equals meant for you. If you are continuously being like, no, I can't do this. This is not for me. There's people out there. I can't do this. Like that means it comes from your intuition and you're just doubting it, okay? If you're trying to convince yourself, right, talk yourself into it, which is very different than trying to make sure you don't have to do something versus trying to force yourself to do something, okay? That means it's not meant for you. That's your ego trying to steer you into what it thinks is best. So if you constantly are trying to talk yourself out of something, if you are protesting so much, and it's and it's something small, you know you're fighting your intuition then at that point. But if you constantly, despite things not working out, and you keep going towards this thing and you keep trying to convince yourself, you keep trying, it's not working out, and part of why you keep going towards it is you keep being like, no, this is right, this is what I gotta do, this is the only route meant for me, I can't do anything else. That is a closed-end loop, right? And so that is literally being like a do-all or end-all, which the intuition doesn't operate in. So you needing to convince yourself that this is the only path forward. This is the only thing I can do. You know, I have to do this. It's not maybe for you then, okay? So it's important to know. And it's also important to like see like the appreciation of this. So like when I'm late, my intuition now, because of my bond with my intuition, I am never late like Gandalf. I arrive exactly when I'm meant to. And oftentimes that's because the universe wanted me there because either I was avoiding a disaster, that if I'd come on the road or come out here, there would have been something that I wouldn't have wanted to come to, right? And or there is something I'm meant to see. There's a specific timing here that's at play because I'm meant to see, hear, be around, or at a specific location for an exact reason. And when I get there, that synchronicity, those moments, that animal, these things, the saying, the song, something, they're going to happen. And if I had arrived even a second before that, or a minute before that, or a minute too late, I would have missed the sign or synchronicity or the reason that my intuition was protecting me or supporting me, okay? So it's very important to honor sometimes that you're not always going to show up exactly when you mean to, but you're going to show up exactly when you're supposed to. And that's exactly when your intuition is going to come through as well. It's not always going to come through when you want it to, but it's going to come through when it's supposed to. And it's always going to be directing you in a way that is trying to help you, support you in the best, smoothest way possible. Okay. And when it does that, then it is definitely trying to let you know that it's for you. Okay. And so the closing highlights, I would say, is it speaks softly. Trust your small nudges. Body cues are important. Detach from the outcomes and notice your syncs. All right. Other than that, there's so much information in this video, but the crux of it is knowing that your intuition is your internal compass. This is how you know what's for you and what's not for you. This is how you know what's for the planet or for animals or for anything. This is how you truly can gauge yourself. And when you open up to the powers of your intuition, you will open up actually to the power of your soul, which then opens up to the power of consciousness itself, to spirit itself, to energy itself, to everything that we're connected and part of. And when you do that, you do become invincible. You are able to make this world a bit more that's yours rather than a world that you feel kind of like suppressed and, I don't know, bound down by. Instead, you get to be a part of the active creator and director of what this reality can form and take shape into, because then you realize that you're connected into a part of it all. And by us all coming online to this intuition to realize our power, we realize largely we've been creating the society we've been in because of a suppressed identity of us. And when we actually take into that full encompassing of what we actually could be, it changes everything about what we can manufacture or make here or be like and operate with each other in the everything. We can actually be a utopia society. We can actually be a healthy, beneficial society full of people that are all like that, not just a one size fits all, but in a unique, individual, beautiful way that we can make this place truly beautiful, truly the heaven on earth it's supposed to be when we stop allowing the demons to run the script, right? And so I really hope that this helps some people illuminate to the powers of your intuition. It's probably one of my favorite things in the whole world is to really tap into my intuition, because there's nothing that feels better than when you recognize that something that you could not really make tangible or really prove now has come to pass in something that you felt, you know, and you trusted and you believed. And so much of what I am today, so much of what I've become is because of one little belief, right? That I didn't know how important it was, that I didn't know why it mattered, and so many of the steps along my path that I didn't know why they mattered, but I trusted in them and I trusted in what I felt, and now here I am, okay? So believe in yourself, believe in what you know, believe beyond what they tell you, tap into this, tap into yourself, and truly watch how your life can shift so quickly because you've just started allowing yourself to be in flow with what already wants to be in flow with you. Okay? So much love until next time. See you later.